Okay, I'm recording. Oop, hearing voices.
Somebody sounded like Trump there for a second.
Facebook. Oop, hearing voices.
Somebody sounded like Trump there for a second.
Oh, I'm hearing myself double. That's not going to work. Facebook. Here we go. That was confusing.
All right.
Are you guys probably hearing that too?
Yeah, I was hearing that.
Stream. I pulled up Facebook on my. Usually, I run it off the iPad instead of a computer. So
Nice.
That should work. Let me.
All right.
Can I mute this one?
Let me know when we're ready.
Everybody recording?
I'm recording.
All right.
Rip Tater Chip.
We want to say shout out to our sponsors, Watchman Cigars, 1812 Barbecue, Blue Collar Cycle Shop, and Hookline and Heroes, and our Patreons like you. Thank you for supporting the show. Without you, this would not be possible. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast, where it's our take on life, liberty, and the pursuit of gravy, while you, the listener, are getting a degree in common sense. We are broadcasting from our blue-collar cycle bunkers right here in beautiful Concord area, North Carolina. We've got a great show lined up for you as always. But before we begin, let me introduce you to our starting lineup. Running out on the court, manning the chat and our video, it is Magic Man.
Hey, everybody.
At the control deck, we've got producer Brian.
Hey, guys.
I, of course, be your host, Biggin, and how about you? And across the way, we have Mojo.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. Appreciate you guys tuning in for this episode. You can follow us on the Facebook page at Southern Fried Philosophy. You can also follow us on our website at southernfriedphilosophy.com. Check us out wherever you download your podcast, listen to your podcast. You can go there, search Southern Fried Philosophy, hit the subscribe, review, rating button there. Also share your favorite episodes. We appreciate you guys tuning in each and every week. Also, you can check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/SFP radio. Also on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/SFP radio.
Make sure that if you are watching this on Facebook Live, listening to it on podcast, go out to our YouTube channel. Just hit the subscribe button. That would be great. We need 100 before we can get our own channel. So we would appreciate it. Just do that. You don't have to do anything else. Just go out there, hit subscribe, and we'll move on. We appreciate that. The faster you do it, the least time I'll be talking about it. So that would be great. All right. So just some upcoming guests, some guests that we've got coming up. Next week, we have Duan Curse. He is going to tell us his story about growing up in West Philadelphia, where he was born and raised, living in poverty and getting himself out of that. And then his story is just also incredible, like Amanda's last week. Then the week after that, we've got Bailey and Andy from Warehouse Distilleries out in Newton, North Carolina, going to tell us about what it's like to open up a distillery. And so that should be fun. We've got some product on its way, so we will be doing samples as well. So that should be a fun show. So stay tuned to those. I appreciate that. If you are home alone and you decide you want to do your own podcast or you want to do it with somebody else, contact producer Brian, and he can do his magic, work his mojo, sorry, no pun intended, to make your podcast sound fantastic. Connect with him at headlines at SFP radio. And then also too, if you're listening to this podcast and you say, hey, I own a business and I would like to throw my sponsorship up, you get the cool graphic. We put your link to your business on our show. row. We've talked about the giant U.S. RV map that we need to fill in. We still need New Hampshire, Vermont, North Dakota, Wyoming, and Alaska. Once we get that, we'll have all 50 states. Currently, we go from California to Carolina. We can go that route, but we're missing those 5 other states of listeners. So if you know somebody that lives in those states, shoot them a text and email and say like, hey, why don't you go listen to my friends, southernfriedphilosophy.com, and they can listen to the show. We get the stat, and bada bing, bada boom, we'll fill in our RV map. We really
Did
appreciate
we
that.
get Maine back?
We did. So what happened
all right.
last time is I didn't go far back enough. So we had a main listener. They kind of dropped
like
off.
5 years ago.
Well, it wasn't 5 years ago. It was like 3 years ago.
3 3/4.
So I'm trying to do everybody that's listened to the show. So there's that. Then once we get all 50 states, we're going to move up to America's Top Hat and say, what's up, Canada? So I'm going to ask you guys like I ask you every week, how you be doing? Ryan, Magic Man.
Magic Man.
You've got a story about Georgia.
Oh,
Is that
yeah.
right?
Yeah. So this past weekend, my wife and I made a trip down to southeast Georgia to the Brunswick area where she hails from.
Come on now.
And my niece is moving into her first apartment, and we had an old bed that we weren't using anymore. So we were like, "Hey, you want the bed?" And she said, "Sure."
Hey,
so
buddy.
we got a nice little U-Haul trailer and hightailed it down there last Friday. Hit a nice little monsoon as soon as we crossed the Georgia-South Carolina line
Sure
into
you
Georgia. Yeah. But it, I got there safely, and it's kind of a surreal experience after being cooped up in the house for so long. We actually went out into a restaurant. It was it was an old-time country buffet similar to a Golden Corral. They did have the social distancing things in effect, such as markings on the floor to keep your distance away from other people there.
Sure. Was this a buffet? I'm just asking.
It was a buffet, but what they were doing is instead of you getting your food yourself, they had the people working there dishing out the food to you. So it was more like a cafeteria actually. But the food was good. It was 50% capacity, so they had half the tables blocked off so people couldn't sit there, although there wasn't that many people there anyways. And they didn't allow groups bigger than 10 people in the restaurant, so to sit together. So that was nice. Other than that, it was a nice little trip, nice to kind of get away for a little bit. Interesting how many people we saw driving to and from there, and while we were there, that weren't wearing masks, weren't really observing the 6-foot distance rule. But like I said, it was just nice to get away. It was great.
Sure. Producer Brian, did you have a question? I saw you raise your hand there.
He kind of answered it, but it's funny you mentioned the buffet because this week I was thinking, is COVID-19 the end of the all-you-can-eat buffet? Like you think about like Chinese restaurants or whatever, Golden Corral. I never thought of the cafeteria, like switching it cafeteria style, but then there's a little more judgment when they see you 6 times at the chocolate cake or whatever, right? I mean, is this going to help with America's obesity rate?
Absolutely not. Listen, you are not going to stop.
I think they're going to see you there regardless if you're getting your food or if they're dishing it out for you.
Right. And then you get to give them the judgy eyes of, hey, buddy, that's not enough mashed potatoes. I need you to go back and give me some more.
Yeah.
So you want more banana pudding? You're still eating banana pudding. Right?
Absolutely. Okay. You're going to have to bring it back. Listen, in our country, you are not going to stop the fraternity of Fat Five Fat or the sorority of Big Mama What. You're not going to stop us. We're going to keep coming to the buffet. We're not going to stop. There's nothing that's going to do, coronavirus or not. We're still going to be going up to that buffet.
We will prevail.
We will prevail. I tell you that right now. Producer Brian, how you be doing? Oh, well, let me also, when you were in Brunswick, did you get any Brunswick stew?
Nope, no Brunswick stew this time, but they did have it on the menu.
I quit with you.
Was that on the How Southern Are You? And you could have checked that box off, and you didn't do it.
You could have done it.
That's right. I have had it before.
Oh,
I've had it modern style and 18th century style.
Okay.
When I used to
all right.
I
will give you your Southern card back then.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Producer Brian, how you doing?
I'm good. I survived a day of being the only parent in the house, which says something in these times, you know. And it was like wet, so I couldn't send the kids outside to play or anything.
Yeah, can I give you an applause for that? Good job,
Let
sir.
me give
Well
myself.
done.
I'm gonna push my own applause button.
That was a fast one.
That's what she said.
Yeah, so my wife had to go to the school to do school things because the end of the year. Believe it or not, it's the end of the year, end of the school year.
It's no doubt. The
So
end of the year.
I had to homeschool for like 2 hours today.
And you're still alive and you're breathing.
Still alive.
That's
the children
amazing.
are alive. The crazy thing, here's the really remarkable part.
Mm-hmm.
I taught my daughter Common Core math today.
What?
Accidentally, but it turned out to be Common Core math.
You did it accidentally?
Well, it was the logical way to solve. In this particular case, it was the easiest way to show her how to solve the problem. And then I realized, I think this is Common Core.
Okay.
So
I don't understand. Hot Pocket will do his math and it'll be like 17 plus 4, right? And I come back and there's like little it looked like a dice. There's like little dots everywhere. I'm like,
yeah.
What are you doing?
Well, she's in kindergarten and she was doing like 187 minus 62.
What?
So,
Daggone.
yeah, I taught her how to do that. So she had this number grid.
An AP?
She's
at AP kindergarten?
Well, my 4-year-old placed in the kindergarten on her math test. We took them the other day, so they don't get that from me.
Wow.
So it's like we looked at the math problem. I was like, "How are you going to do this?" She goes, "Oh, I have this chart that'll help me," and it's like a number grid. It's just number blocks. Is all it is.
Okay.
And she was like circling the number and like just counting back 22 spaces to get the right number. It's like, well, that's one way to do it. So if you count by tens first, so I got into it and showed her how to count by tens first, and then go up 5 and then over 2, whatever the number was. And after like 6 tries, she started getting it.
Wow. There's a chart. I just use paper. Like
it was, but yeah. So we had the charts in like a folder divider, and you could write on it with a dry erase marker.
How about it?
It's high tech.
I don't get it.
Yep.
Mojo, how you be doing? Welcome to the team, by the way.
I think I'm done shoveling water out of my shop.
Whoa, what happened?
You have one of those big squeegees? You have one of those big
No, it's just
things?
so much rain. If Corona was rain, it was Corona time at the shop this week. It was just brutal. Like I said last week, I think I need to probably start selling boats or pontoons or kayaks or something else, because people riding in the water.
Rubber ducks.
So, yeah.
Well, listen, I think you've got a good weekend coming up, right? I think the weather's going to clear out.
Who knows? I think every day has a
chance. Yeah.
Like an 80% chance, with 140% humidity, because here we are in the South here. So
I'm also going to say that sounds a lot like my honeymoon. So there's that.
There you go.
There it is.
How you be doing?
I'm good, man. It's been a crazy week. The short weeks always seem the longest. I don't understand why. But hey, buddy, you get 4 days to work, but it feels like by Thursday you're like, have I not been in this week for like a month? So that's been crazy. I did have a conversation with my dad the other day about thermostats. We would go down to Florida, my wife and I, and when we'd stay with Dad, it would be extremely hot in the house, and we were just like, look, I'll leave $20 on the counter. Just can we crank it down just a little bit? And so I asked him today, I was like, so what did you actually have the thermostat on? And even at his house now, feels like it's a little warm. And so he was saying he left the thermostat in Florida at 78. And he leaves his thermostat here at 76. Now, I think that's way too hot. So I did a Facebook poll on what's the normal range that you guys have, above 76, below 76, or at 76. One person said that they leave it at 70, 76 and up. But everybody else said below 76. So I want to know your thoughts. What do you keep your thermostat at? And he said, by the way, if you do a poll, everybody will say about 76. And in reference, we keep ours at like 70, and I kick it down to 68 at night.
I think it really depends on the age group too, because I noticed that people
Yeah.
as they advance in age tend to like it hotter, and I just don't know if it's maybe lack of the ability to create body heat, or the kind of that cranks down. I know my parents who are in their 70s, they keep their house a little bit on the warm side. I think they keep their thermostat at 76.
Okay.
Yep, I know. We keep ours. Well, during the day when we're not here, usually 76, and then when we get home, it cranks down to 72 or below.
Now, if you're working from home now, does that change?
Yeah, I crank it down to 72 or 70.
70 to 72.
Yeah.
Okay.
Leanne Whitley on the chat just says she keeps theirs at 70.
Okay.
So, but
Yeah.
not just necessarily keep the rooms cool, but also it acts as a dehumidifier. And as the humidity cranks up, it crank on the AC to kind of get rid of some of the humidity, because that makes it feel hot as well.
Look at that. Magic Man coming up with science.
Hey,
Appreciate that.
Magic Man's smart sometimes.
Producer Brian, what do you keep yours at?
72.
Just no matter what, 72.
72 all year
Boy,
round.
that's
The
still
heat's
warm.
at 72. The air's at 72.
You set your nest. You don't even have a higher or lower. It's just 72.
72.
Boy.
I'll have it like, with the net. I do have a nest, but you can, in those weird, like just now, spring, I had it would heat to 68 or something and cool to 72. So there's like a 4-degree window.
Okay.
House stays at all the time.
Okay.
Essentially. What's funny is my mother-in-law will come down from the Great White North and in May and June and be in jeans and a sweatshirt the whole time.
Yeah. Dad just texted me and he said I never left him a $20 on the counter, so I still evidently now I owe him the $20. Way to go.
Oh, it was a bet.
Yeah. Mojo, what do you keep yours at?
I don't have a choice of what I keep mine at.
Okay.
Because
what does the family leave it at?
We'll see at the shop. I'm too cheap to turn on the heat and air. So ambient temperature, I'm sure I'll turn it on once the dog days of summer hit, but at the house, whatever temperature penguins can operate at, that's pretty much what we have our set at. So
39.
We have the coldest beer in town. That's all I know.
And you don't even use a fridge. That's amazing.
Well, I opened the fridge to warm up. So
some meat hanging in there somewhere to cure.
Nice.
Well, there's a meat shortage now, so I have no curing meat.
Dry steaks on the counter, probably. That's great.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
so,
and if I click it above 69, my wife gets mad. So
there's a joke there, and I'm just going to leave it. All right. So I do have some follow-up discussions. Well, we'll go to big and stock tip of the week. Producer Brian nailed it when he said that once the stock market starts to tank, Biggins going to freak out. So I noticed when I pulled my little app up on Monday, I said, "Hey, we're not doing so good." And then I looked at the 3-month percentage that I won or that I made, and that is going down very quickly. So Mojo has been sending me, "Hey, stock tips." And then I was like, okay, well, here's some that I would look at. And then we started having the discussion that Joe has been sending me. If I were to sell these stocks, what happens? Well, I started doing some Googling on that part. And I have to keep the stocks for a year to avoid a massive capital gains tax hit. And then I realized my taxes, or my percentage, has to be above 15% return for me to even make $1. So after some math, because math is hard, maybe I need to come over and daughter's chart,
Yeah.
I realized this is probably not going to be cost beneficial unless I just dump a ton of money on it. And also it nosedived today. So I'm like, oh, I think I'm not as happy about it as I once was.
It'll
Mojo, your
bounce back.
thoughts?
It'll bounce back. I
It will.
mean,
It'll bounce back. But
Yeah, buy low.
well, and that's the
yeah.
thing. And I get that, but like I've got to make at least 15% to make a profit because 15% capital gains tax.
Stock market is like a savings account for the future. You know what I'm saying? It's like you just take the leftover cash that you know you're going to gamble and throw it in there. I mean, it's legalized gambling. So obviously
Sure.
things with stocks is don't invest more than you can deal with, losing. That's, remember the Bitcoin craze where
Right.
people
That you got
were
me
like,
on. Yeah.
I did.
Remember that
anyway.
one day, like that one week, it went up like to 10,000 out 4. We're like, we're going to be rich.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, crud. That didn't last long.
But, but people were mortgaging their houses, buying Bitcoin. I mean, just
Man, those
stupid
people.
decisions. But like the stock market, it's just like a savings account. That's the way I look at it. But I don't want to touch it. Just keep, throw a little bit here and there and don't touch it.
It is true.
In 10 years, you might make that 15%. So,
right. It's just like, is it going to be worth it? Because the capital gains. If it wasn't capital gains, I'd be like, oh, we're all in.
well,
the only way that you can avoid that is if you do it through an IRA.
Well, what you do though is just, capital gain seems to be, obviously when you have a Republican in the House, they usually don't hit you with the capital gains in the mouth. When you have a Democrat in the House, then that's when they usually up the capital gains to quote unquote tax the rich for programs and stuff. So you just have to wait to the market till you have the right person in the presidential house. And usually around year 2 is when they make their new, things like we're going to lower this or lower taxes or cut
that's
this.
When you sell it.
Yep.
Got it. Yeah. Well, I'm just going to let it sit for a while and then we'll see what happens. My Alibaba, that didn't do so good. So
you have some winners and losers every once in a while. So
also like my honeymoon.
I remember when I first, it's been probably 10 years ago, I was following this penny stock blog and, I thought I was a pennier. I mean, I went and bought probably $1,000 worth of the stock at like 36 cents or whatever. Oh, no. So I bought it. I mean, it was a boatload of shares, and then they split. So I was sitting on some mad capital for a minute.
Sure.
Probably, I think I doubled my money or whatever. And all of a sudden they decided to fold operations. So
no.
Lost it all. So, you gotta invest with your comfort level. And I think, like I've bought a couple stocks that they're okay performing, but they're dividend stocks. Not that you can get a bunch of money back, but just
right.
I mean, obviously this is money that I'm not depending on right now to pay the bills. So, but just invest at your comfort level.
That's the late great Kenny Rogers said, know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. So anyway, I'm just going to sit on it for a while and see what happens. So I'm a little sad. I also ran into this question when my wife was making a cake, and I wanted to get your all's thoughts. So my wife was making a coconut cake, and then she was getting the stuff out to put on the cake, the top layer. And my mother-in-law said, are you going to ice the cake or frost the cake? And then my wife says, well, I'm getting out the icing. And I started thinking, what's the difference between frosting and icing? And why are there the two different words for the exact same thing? Like, which one is, like, what do you guys think of when you hear frosting versus icing?
I've never. I'll be honest with you, I've never sat down and thought about that. That
Right?
might be that might be one of those. Instead of watching TikTok videos on the toilet, that may be one of those things you contemplate the thought of frosting and icing. So,
Right.
I don't. I mean, is there a difference? I don't know. I mean, from the culinary perspective, I don't know. That may be something we have to ask the Googles for.
Well, the
But
Googles say the icing is more like the glaze. Like the glaze.
well, okay, so it's basically like a confectionery sugar or something like that, melted in cream or whatever,
Yeah,
or
milk
water.
and sugar.
Yep.
It's like a pound cake. You put a little bit of a glaze
So
on.
Krispy
maybe.
Kreme would have icing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Frosting is the thicker, like
buttercream,
fluffy.
cream
Yep.
cheese.
Yep.
Makes
According
sense.
to
Thanks,
first
Google.
hit on the old Google. So,
Well,
But that makes sense because you see like pound cake, lemon pound cake, things like that with icing. So
Mhm.
you know, so that makes sense. I've never thought about that before, but you know,
I
now
said that's a great question. Let's ask it.
I will probably be up till 3 o'clock in the morning contemplating how that division started. It's kind of like, you know, with the Protestants split off from the Catholics. I'll probably contemplating the whole thing tonight.
Is there a John Wesley of icing and frosting? Is there? He put some stuff up on the
probably
church.
so. Probably so.
Church
There's
doors there.
probably a some French culinary pastry chef who hammered the recipes onto the culinary doors in France. I'm sure there's got to be.
Yeah.
what's the origination? The origination. So speaking of words that don't exist, the
Right.
origin. The
Original.
what you know what I'm trying to say? The bourbon's
Yeah,
working.
I got you.
Where'd that word come from?
The History of English podcast.
Yeah, we need to give him back on to ask about that because that doesn't sound. That sounds like a very southern thing to say, right? Frosting and ice, like
Right.
it's not a fancy word. You would think it would have some Latin or French title if it's, you know, what's the French word for frosting a cake? You know.
Mhm.
But also here in the South too, with the operational meth labs, icing maybe has a different connotation there too. So
Nice. All right, so we are going to go into some wacky news brought to you by 1812 Barbecue. Eric is still dishing out some fantastic barbecue. That brisket, hey buddy, he does ribs, pulled pork, and don't forget about those sides. Fantastic, delicious sides, and pecan pie. So, I mean, what else do you want? You decide, hey, I'm not going to cook tonight. We probably need to give him a heads up though, because he doesn't just pull it out of his,
Takes
stuff.
a minute.
Yeah, it takes a minute. So give him a heads up. Say, hey, I want some of this fantastic food, and he'll hook you up. All right, so let's go to some.
we need to talk to Eric. I'm kind of curious right now because we've heard nothing but about the meat shortages, things like that. I'd be kind of curious to see what's going on in his. He's got feet on the ground right now. I'm so far removed out of that industry now that I couldn't tell you what's going on.
I did see a post from him that he wanted to get some meat, and then he was like, "Nope, there is none left." So,
oh wow,
he did later finally find some. So there's that.
Yeah, I think. Good.
No, I spent a few weeks looking for bratwurst and finally found some at Sam's. So Sam's.
Interesting conversation though. I think that I don't think we have a meat shortage because I don't think automatically all the pigs and cows had a rapture moment where they went up to the majestic sky.
Sure.
Obviously, as our food system is broken, when you have these food production harvesting facilities where they take cattle or chicken or pork and then they harvest them. Obviously, we have a problem from the feedlot to the production facility to the distribution warehouse hubs, and then when you have maybe like one regional processor like Tyson who will have one processing plant, and then all of a sudden people break out with the Rona, they have to shut that whole facility down. So I think what we're going to see is maybe what would probably work better is this, that old, which I despise the term farm to table in restaurants because it's just, it's like, it's like barista. You're just pouring coffee. You're a coffee pourer.
Right.
But I think we might see more and more smaller operational butcheries, the old school, like, you go in, pick a number, white coat, things like that. So it should be interesting. I think this may reshape the economy, and I think people that jump on board with that will actually probably actually benefit from the market. I mean, we're getting ready to explore some options here, local areas that actually, you know what I'm saying, they butcher
process their own,
process and butcher their own meat. So
yeah, and it may cut out the middleman. And if more people are buying their meat directly from the farmer, right now most of the time it's more expensive, right? Because they know that they can go back to the Harris Teeter or whatever that they're selling it to them, and they know they're going to get a higher price for that. And they also charge us a higher price. But if it's everybody going to that butcher, maybe that'll help lower the cost of said meat. So I don't know. I keep hearing that that's better tasting. Have you guys experienced that?
as far as
Going to a local butcher, having it like slaughtered there, and you pack it up and take it to your freezer.
It's been a while. I'm weird. I'm not a big fan of grass-fed meat. I'll be honest with you. I like the corn-fed where they the grazing animals and they finish it off with corn to fatten them up. I just like that. I like that taste. Grass is just there's something about it. Grass-fed beef. I'm just not a big fan of it. But for a cheeseburger, I guess I'm gonna have to become a fan of grass-fed beef if I want a cheeseburger. So
yeah, you said the same thing too.
Yeah, I ordered like an eighth of a cow a couple years ago from a local farm, and it was all grass-fed, organic. And I could definitely, there's a difference. It's like it's richer, I feel like, but not necessarily.
That's probably.
And I was raised on whatever you get at Food Line.
Yeah,
that kind of meat. So I think if I ate enough of it, I could adjust to the flavor of it. But it was very different, like the steaks and the ground beef, very different flavor.
I wouldn't necessarily say gamey, because like venison has very gamey, you know what I'm saying? That almost liver taste to it, minerally, but there's just something different about it for me that I'm not a fan of. But once again, once you slather it with enough cheese and bacon, I think it's okay. But it's just different.
Don't forget the egg.
And the scrambled egg. Scrambled egg.
Don't forget the licorice. Ryan would pick that.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a food truck that comes to my office park, and they use locally sourced meats and veggies and all kinds of stuff from local farms for their food, and I think it does make a difference. I think it tastes good. I mean, it tastes better than the mass-produced stuff. And I'll be honest with you, my wife and I, we actually prefer grass-fed beef now. And I saw an article that was saying something about my internet just went bloop, bloop, I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw producer Brian's look there. So you can check that off the bingo card too, by the way. Okay. Anyways, but I saw an article recently saying something about the way they feed animals has changed drastically over the last, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 years, where everything was grain or grass fed, and to fatten them up to make them, the chicken's bigger. They showed a chicken that you could buy in 1950 as opposed to one that you can buy today are vastly different. The one you buy today is a lot bigger than the one that you would buy back in the 50s. And not to be a conspiracy person, theorist, whatever, I kind of wonder if the food back then was healthier than it is now, because looking at the obesity rates that you have nowadays compared to back then.
I'm sure
everything else was in lead cans. So
true, yeah. And asbestos in your house.
I'm sure the food had to be better, healthier. I mean, you got to think like between the hormones and preservatives that we use, antibiotics. If you take a free range like local chicken egg and then to crack one open from the old Harris Teeters that just their Harris Teeters brand, they're two different looking eggs just because they come from different facilities, different feed. Also, the feed now for cattle has been genetically modified to, and I'm not going to get on a debate of GMO versus not, but the feed is just different now. I mean, you have these super genetic corn, that they use for cattle feed and ethanol, and it's just different than what our grandfathers were feeding cattle. So
My grandma to this day will swear that the food when she was growing up tastes completely different than what it tastes now. It's like it's just not good anymore.
there's also 10 cents for a hot dog too, probably.
Well, it's probably like a penny.
Yeah.
If that.
They paid you to take it.
All right, so let's go into some wacky news. This story brought to you by just the name of the news organization, WBOY. Oh boy. In West Virginia, a West Virginia man is accused of gouging out his neighbor's eyes, over a loud rooster. Richard Wayne Ellison, which sounds like he probably was taking a shot off at the president, and this is his town, from Rock, was arrested Sunday in the killing of Benny Fooch, according to the sheriff's department. Ellison told the detective he killed the rooster because it was crowing, and then he gouged out his neighbor's eyes because, get this, Lucifer made him do it, according to a criminal complaint. The complaint notes emergency crews were responded for mental health evaluation. It's not clear if he has an attorney.
He'll probably represent himself because,
Sure.
he has some type of galactic spiritual law degree.
Or Lucifer will step in.
Yeah.
What was that movie? The Devil's Advocate? Was that?
Oh, Keanu Reeves.
Keanu? Yeah.
Little Nicky.
Well, I'm going to try to put this. Look at this guy's picture, by the way.
He looks like one of the lollipop
dandy.
kid. He looks like the lollipop kid from the Wizard of Oz.
The Lollipop Guild. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh man, he's an
I love
Oompa
it. He's an Oompa Loompa. That's what happens when an Oompa Loompa kind of lets it rip.
So
That's what happens when you eat off the. That's what happens when you eat off the Golden Corral buffet bar during the Corona.
So was the rooster's name Benny Fouch?
No, that was the guy that got his eyes gouged out.
Oh,
The story was not clear.
He didn't survive that. So he
What do you
killed a
expect
rooster.
from WBOY? Yeah, I think he killed the rooster and then gouged his eyes out, and I guess he died from that. That's all we got.
Crazy.
Okay.
All right, producer Brian's going to do some.
I'm not going to.
investigative
No, I'm not. I don't want to know.
You don't want to. Do not Google that. So we've noted the bad things of the coronavirus. We've also noted the great things about coronavirus. Drive-by birthdays, drive-by graduations, baby showers. You just drive by, throw your gift at them, and walk away. I love it. That's perfect. That needs to continue. Well, another gentleman decided he's going to take this coronavirus thing and make a positive out of it. Out of Mobile, Alabama, a guy in the Mobile County allegedly took advantage of the pandemic closure for not only for shelter, but also for food. The MPD officers said that they found a 33-year-old man lying down in one of the theaters in AMC. They found him Tuesday, and they said that he's been held up there for several days. He ate several bags of the theater snacks and drank several bottled beverages. He's charged with burglary, and the movie theater remains temporarily closed amid the COVID-19 pandemic. He broke into the theater and ate all their snacks. It's kind of genius.
There's a lot of Twizzlers and Good and Plenty's.
You think
fire
they're
up the
gonna
popcorn maker?
I mean, you would think that would be something I would go do.
And did you get the movie? Can you figure out how the reel works to play the movies? That's the real.
Oh, now that would have been genius right there.
I'd be watching all that IMAX.
All the
stuff.
good movies. You
They're
think?
probably
What do
all
you think?
digital now.
What do you think his nickname in prison is going to be now?
Pixar.
Good and Plenty. I like that one. So anyway, I thought that was pretty genius.
Great.
On the opposite spectrum, a man, this is in San Diego, which is Spanish for, well, you can look that up. Man was arrested on suspicion of breaking into a bank early Wednesday morning. Apparently, he entered the branch just so he could heat up his Hot Pocket sandwiches. Around 3:30 a.m., the police were dispatched. The burglar alarm had gone off. When they arrived, they went. They noticed the drive-through window was broken out. They went in. They went to the break room, and the man was using the microwave. He said that he was trying to heat up his Hot Pockets. The police did not release any further details on the incident. That's all I'm getting.
Read that last quote on that article there. When he said, when asked if the Hot Pockets were worth it, he said, hell yeah, it was worth it.
Hell yeah, it was worth it. Come on now.
My biggest question here is, who calls Hot Pockets a sandwich? That's like the first paragraph there.
Is it a sandwich?
Is it a sandwich?
That's kind of like Google Hot Pockets.
That's kind of like a hot dog. Is hot dog a sandwich?
That's a whole other podcast.
I know, but is meatloaf a roasted baked burger, or
is it a burger? Yeah,
guys,
it's a quesadilla sandwich.
This could be breaking news. On the box, it says Hot Pocket sandwiches.
Huh?
Really? No, that's like from the other dimension thing. That's not.
Well, that would
Sinbad on the box too.
Sandwiches.
No, but hold on. That means a stuffed pizza slice would be a sandwich too.
What constitutes a sandwich? Meat between bread, right?
Well, so that would be a hot dog. Would be a sandwich.
A hot dog would be a sandwich.
I see no pizza. I see no hot dogs. Oh, there's a hot dog. Oh,
see,
I see no Hot Pockets.
Is there a Hot Pocket? Yeah, that's what I said.
Not yet. I'm going through here.
So
that's a
calzone and stromboli are just big ass sandwiches.
Papadilla.
Absolutely.
There's Popeye's chicken sandwich. That popped up in there. Let's see.
Okay. All right. I also have this breaking news. Popeye sandwiches. All right. We've ate the Popeyes chicken sandwich. I need some help on this one. Producer Ryan, Mojo, we've had that sandwich. Ryan, have you had the sandwich?
I have not. Every time I looked,
they
were out. Yep.
Okay.
I've stopped eating Popeyes and have started marching around the building, blowing my trumpets.
How many more days?
I don't know. I'm just trying to get the lockdown to end. So I figured I had to start at Popeyes because that's the only coherent belief is that when Popeyes came out with the chicken sandwich, we just went full madness. So,
all right, Karen.
Started.
Yeah. But here's the deal. So my father-in-law on the way up from Southeast Georgia said, "Hey, I want some fried chicken." So the whole time he was talking about the fried chicken, he never got it. So when he got here, I was like, "Hey, we can go to Popeyes. You can try that chicken sandwich." He brings home the chicken sandwich, and gentlemen, I'm telling you, there's a conspiracy theory on this chicken sandwich. It's not the same chicken sandwich because what he had was chicken fingers with the pickles and the bun. We didn't have a chicken fingers. Is that correct?
No, we didn't.
No, it was a fillet.
They've I don't know when they recently changed that because I was, because I have to go to Cincinnati sometimes to pick up motorcycles, and I stopped at a truck stop there right after the Rona hit, and they're doing the same thing. So I'm not. Maybe they're having a shortage now with the production or something. But
they were saying that back when the first shortage happened, that they would sell a tender sandwich basically, which is different chicken. It's not the same breading or anything.
Nope, because it had a tempura type batter around the chicken. Yep. This one, it was just a regular chicken strips.
Well,
I'm calling foul.
Good pun.
See what I did there.
But it could just be. Did you go to the Concord, North Carolina location?
I went to the one right up the street.
Yeah. That one's just a hot bag of garbage anyway. So, pretty much any Popeyes location on a given good day is a hot bag of garbage. You know, I cannot tell you my distaste for Popeye's customers.
Drink, and they're yelling at him about not getting a drink. Like, you didn't order a drink. It's on my
Well, it's just like, have you seen the memes about Amazon Prime versus US, the United States Postal Service or FedEx? That's like Popeyes. Like Amazon Prime is Chick-fil-A, and then everyone, every other Popeyes is like all the other branches that just throw your crap around. I mean, kicking down the street. So, they just,
But people are still lined up. Like I'll drive
are
by
they
there.
are they lined up still?
Dude, I am not kidding you. I drove by and my father-in-law said it took them 20 something minutes to get through the drive-through.
There you go. Chick-fil-A, 20 minutes. You're at home tucked in by the Chick-fil-A manager.
Absolutely.
With them opening your food for you. At Popeyes, you're still waiting behind two cars that have been sitting there for 25 minutes. So.
Absolutely. No, I agree 100% with that. But even going to pick up Hot Pocket and Small Batch at 4:00, they're at least 3 or 4 cars deep from where you order. I'm not kidding you. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but like you said though, that's 4 cars that have been sitting there for you know what I'm saying, for a while. I mean, that's kind of like, press 1 for your extended warranty and you placed on hold to speak to a live person. You might be there for a minute waiting for a live person. Chick-fil-A, like I said, Chick-fil-A, they get you in and out. I mean,
yeah, no doubt. I mean,
Popeyes. I mean, I'm not trying to knock Popeyes. Actually, I don't care. I am knocking Popeyes. Yeah, I mean, they just.
If they were though, we would take that gladly, and we'd say that you're the best chicken sandwich there is.
I'd put it with a contender. As far as chicken sandwiches, I'd put a contender with Chick-fil-A, but man, their customer service is horrid. No, man. I mean, those people, like, Chick-fil-A, they're like, my pleasure. Thank you for coming in. Chick-fil-A or Popeyes, you're like, you have to thank them for being open.
You have to duck because you might get shot by the employees. You don't know.
True.
Do you remember, like, it was a couple of years ago when we were doing the show and somebody had a behind the scenes camera of the Popeyes, and people, like, there was rats running around the back, and like their fries were like moldy in the freezer. Like, it was nasty. And they were just like, here it is. It's like, this is my last day. They got fired. And they're like, this is why. And they showed like the nasty Popeyes. But
yeah. Well, I think there's so many things there though.
Sure.
But I don't know.
Jesus
Chicken just has a whole different level of standard. So
did you see the Babylon Bee thing that I sent out today, where it was like, if you get the Chick-fil-A sauce and put it over your doorpost, like the blood that the coronavirus will pass over your house?
That could be.
Way to go, Babylon Bee.
Yeah.
By the way, they've gotten extremely political. I don't mind. Their jokes are hilarious. But I mean, that's all there is.
I think it's just capturing the market at the
time
season.
of year.
I I think 2021 it'll probably go back to just picking on televangelist.
So, we hope so.
I have the video of how Popeyes would be if they had delivery.
Okay.
I have not streamed this.
Oh boy.
I can play the audio, or I can throw it up for the 6 people on Facebook.
7.
7, excuse me.
All right, 7.
I've got more on my side.
Yeah, I'm sure you know. From what I'm seeing, there's a. Let me see if I can make this work real quick. But
hey,
I've seen this
back.
and it's hilarious.
Hey, Rodney.
I think there's some. Hopefully, it doesn't get kicked off of any platforms.
See, Rodney also said that it's a breast. It's a chicken breast. So it's not that tender crap they've been trying to dish.
I don't know. It could be the Mandela effect.
Here is. I'm going to put this on for
that Mandela effect.
If this works.
In the world? Here, damn. Bro, I ordered it 3 hours ago, but what's going on? And we here now, ain't we? Okay, then you better leave a tip. Shit, where my drink at? You did not order no drink. You better go on. Bro, yes, I did. I ordered a Sprite. Nigga, you didn't order no drink. I told you that. What are you talking about? The order is right here. It says, you better get that phone out of my face. What are you talking about? how you ordered a drink. Bro, is my sauce in here, at least? Do you not have sauce in the kitchen? I asked y'all for barbecue sauce. It don't matter what the fuck you asked for. Do you have sauce in the kitchen? Yes or no? Yes. Okay then. That's what I'm saying. And why y'all parking my yard? Why is he here?
What's your face?
Sorry, bro. Calm down, bro.
I'm so uncomfortable.
Not playing with you, bro. Don't worry about us, man. You lucky we even came, stupid ass. What? Get to knock your ass out. Stop playing.
Oh my. All right, let that be a lesson to us. We need to see our videos before we play it.
I also have the Chick-fil-A version of that if you want to.
Hey, Jake, by the way, he said, I don't know how I stumbled upon here, but I just want to say hello. Hey, Jake.
All right. Yeah, let me
Is this
this one can't be, it has to be clean because it's Chick-fil-A, right?
okay? All right.
This may not make it on the podcast. We'll see what happens here.
Hello, here's your food. Sorry that we're 5 seconds late, so I went ahead and brought my bag.
You didn't have to do that.
How you doing, sir? Like he said, we're terribly sorry for the inconvenience. So I went ahead and got you a complimentary Apple Watch to go with your meal.
An Apple Watch for being 5 seconds
My
late?
pleasure, my pleasure. And we seen that your car needed a little bit of washing, so we went ahead and got somebody on that. And your grass is a little bit higher than average, so we went ahead and got somebody to mow that too. Hope that's not a problem.
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay, and just in case there's more than just you in the house, we went ahead and got you 4 extra meals too.
What? Thank
Is there
you.
anything else you might need? Any condiments, a hug, a handshake, anything like that?
Sauce.
Sauces? Man, somebody bring the damn sauces! We got barbecue. We have ranch, Chick-fil-A sauce.
Just 2 ranches.
2 ranches? No, don't be modest. Grab a little bit more than. Man, pick the damn sauces up!
Yeah.
No, get out of here!
What?
I think that's it, sir.
That's it? Okay. Well, do you watch the Michael Jordan Last Dance documentary by any chance?
I do, actually.
Oh, well, we knew that. So we went ahead and got you some Jordans for that.
Are those the year of the rabbit?
Yes, the year of the
Oh.
rabbit. And they're size 11, just in case. Is that your size?
That's my perfect size. How'd you know?
Oh, well, we looked you up on Facebook and make sure we bought all sizes. We bought 8, 9, 10, anything like that.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. My pleasure.
Y'all have a nice day.
You too. Oh, wait, before you go, sir, we'll be out here for an extra hour. Just in case we need those napkins, anything like that.
Thank you. Y'all have a nice day, man. For real.
Wow. How about you?
Ain't
No,
that
that's-
the truth?
That is about 100% accurate.
There it is.
Oh, goodness.
That reminds me about those comparisons about the different delivery services. You know, the postal service versus UPS versus FedEx versus Amazon.
By the way, when you go through Grubhub or anything else like that, do you notice that like they jack up the price of the actual menu item as well?
Say that one more time.
So when you go through like Grubhub or
Oh,
Postmates,
yeah.
the menu item is also like jacked up. So they're getting you on the delivery fees and everything else like that, but they're also increasing the price of the menu item.
Was it the last week we had the story about the pizza guy who was buying his own pizzas back from
Oh yeah.
Grubhub? Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's because they're jacking the price up.
Yeah. All right, guys. So producer Brian, SFP headlines preview. What do we got?
Yes. This week on the headlines, Southern Fried Headlines podcast, India catches a Pakistani spy pigeon. A man gets arrested for wrestling a bear at the zoo. And you have to prove your relationship status to visit Denmark if you're visiting a loved one.
All of those sound again like my honeymoon. So there's that.
Yeah, my favorite one from this week actually is the Blue Wahoos in Florida are renting their stadium on Airbnb. So you can, for $1,500 a night, up to 10 people can stay in the stadium.
What kind of stadium is it?
It's a AA baseball team.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That actually might be legit.
It sounds great. So
Yeah, I think we need to do that and camp out in the.
you can run the bases if you want to.
No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
concession
eat all their
stands
hot
are open.
dogs.
I'm not sure if you can get to the nachos or not. That's my only
$1,500. I better be getting some nachos.
Exactly.
funnel cake maker. You know, I want to get in there.
Full service at the concession stands. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Might be extra.
All right, so we're going to go into some hot topics brought to you by Hook, Line, and Heroes. This is our last week with Hook, Line, and Heroes, 501c3 that gives our veterans a experience of a lifetime with fishing. They connect you to a relationship with God as well. So our friends at Hook, Line, and Heroes, we still love you, but we'll see you on the flip side on that. All right, so global warming. Guys, what are your thoughts on man-made global warming? I'm just going to, easy topic. Just thought I'd, send out this cupcake. Mojo, thoughts on man-made global warming?
I think that man, I think the earth is so vast that the things that we can do kind of to, to affect the climate. I think that the earth's so big. I mean, we're what, 80% of the 70%, 80%, more of the world is covered in water. I think that's a huge filter. I think we can affect our environment. I don't know if we can affect the climate as a whole. We can terraform certain things, like you have China and Russia up there in the north, the Arctic, where they're actually trying to. There's a kind of a race between those two countries right now to discover mineral deposits and oil and things like that up in the north, and they're actually terraforming the environment up there. But as far as global warming, I don't know. I think that's kind of the sizzle word of the 2000s right now, because back in the early 80s, I was afraid of acid rain. That's all you heard about was acid rain, and
that was a good band. They had some fantastic hits.
But I don't know, man. I think it's if there is global warming, it has been hijacked for political purposes, and that's where they kind of lose me at.
You mean to tell me that could be hijacked for political purposes?
Imagine that. Popeye's chicken sandwich is going to be hijacked. So.
Didn't see it coming. I will say, ran across an article that I thought was pretty interesting that kind of sort of dealt with that a little bit. But did you guys know that the North Pole, where Santa lives, isn't where it used to be?
Yeah, shifting.
Ever since James Clark first identified it on the Boothia Peninsula in Canada's Nunavut territory, which, by the way, we need some listeners from Nunavut territory, in 1831. Scientists have been carefully measuring its location ever since, but in recent years, it's been inching closer and closer to Siberia at a surprisingly rapid pace. They said that within the past from 1999 to 2005, the Earth's magnetic pole went from shifting from 9 miles at most each year to as much as 37 miles per year. Evidently, what's happening is there's an iron core that helps create the magnetic poles, but the magnetic core is starting to separate, and it's becoming two different blobs, and they're spinning around. Well, one of them's pulling it to Siberia, the other one's pulling it to Canada, and right now the Canadian side is moving, so it's spinning around and causing that magnetic pole to shift. You say, well, what's the ramifications of that? It actually has some pretty interesting impacts. One of them is that our smartphones use magnetic North Pole. Airplanes, our cell phones, satellites, and all those things. Well, they're having to shift and move the runways in some of the airports in Florida to make sure that the planes are landing there on time, or landing there in the right spot. So they're saying that that's an issue, and it could also be causing some of these ginormous storms we were seeing back in like the early 2010s and so on and so forth. We saw the hurricanes and whatnot, but it's not all man-made. I remember during those giant storms, they were saying, well, this is caused because of climate change. But I never heard of the the North Pole shifting. Did you guys hear that, or was it just me?
Well, that's not about climate change. That's just the Earth, the way it's spinning.
Right.
Yeah, but if you shift, you do shift the angle to the sun.
Yeah.
The position of the sun.
That could cause climate change.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
Go the other way
around.
But
that has nothing to do with, because I drive a dirty diesel. That just has to deal with the fact that, the poles are shifting. I think there's so many more factors than just me using non-recycled toilet paper, me using a halogen bulb versus a fluorescent. I think there's more factors than just that, or if I don't recycle all my cans, or
right.
There's more factors than that. I think it's interesting. I wonder what 10 years from now will they come back and say that the metal core of the Earth is no longer we no longer have it at two pieces. It's just one solid core, and this is just a natural cycle. There's been many theories out there that actually the poles will shift. For example, north will no longer be north; it'll be south. And they'll flip flop, and what that will cause.
They said that would take
There was a
5,000 years for that to happen.
Cusack movie about that.
Yeah.
Oh, is
well, also The Rock, I think he was in something too. But I don't think where's our girl Greta Thunberg at? I haven't seen
That's a
her
good
lately.
question.
But
Quarantine.
it's not.
Not going to school. I know that much.
Well, I mean, she hijacked her parents. Boy, I tell you what. But
that's a disservice.
I don't think that global warming is this whole perpetrated political lie that I think we've been fed. I mean, I just don't see it because, we love science and data when it comes to shutting the economy down, but we don't love science and data when it comes to the Rona or to the climate change. I mean, so
absolutely.
Yeah. I just, there's so many more factors than just, because I use it, people use aerosol hairspray. I mean, there's more factors than just
there's more than pollution, but the humans have had an effect on the planet over the last 100 years for sure.
Oh, we affect planet.
Absolutely.
Because that's called, like I said, it's called terraforming. I mean, we can shape the environment we live in, but also around the opposite opposing side of the globe, it may be totally different.
Even with like wildlife, with the fishing and stuff, changes the ecosystems, which affects the actual environment the animals live in because of the different creatures are living there. All this.
But I don't think I mean, I know humans were kind of an egotistical species, but I'm pretty sure we can't shift the pole.
Yeah, I mean, they've been measuring this for like 50. Like they started paying attention, and since they started paying attention, things have changed.
Right.
Which is.
But what happened before that?
That's what happened. Yeah, we don't know what happened before that, so we don't have enough data to know when.
Yeah,
it's maybe in 100 years we're going to have one of those pole flips and the world cracks in half and the dinosaurs come back.
Oh,
maybe there's a Middle Earth with hobbits.
It's the lizard people. They're coming out.
My question is, what do the flat earthers say about the Earth tilting? Are we going to fall off when this happens?
That's a good question. Cliff Harris from Long Range Weather was saying that we're actually starting to move into a new little ice age.
No way.
Actually getting hotter. It's starting to get a little bit colder.
72.
So,
I tell you, this is probably one of the cool. I know this is just climate and weather changes. This is probably one of the coolest Mays I've experienced in probably the past 10 years, I would say.
Yeah,
it'll be 110 in July probably.
Yeah, well, it'll be hotter than a Popeye's kitchen, here soon. But I mean, it's just like I said, weather. It happens. So,
all right, producer Brian, you sent some information about a mask discussion.
Well, I just wanted to bring it up because I don't think we've really talked about. I put a link in the document, but it's not really doesn't really matter about the link. It's just some information.
Yeah,
I'm just curious where you guys stand on this mask stuff because to me, it's kind of a common sense protect everybody. It doesn't hurt me to wear one. Yeah, it's a little uncomfortable sometimes, but
have you tried to breathe through those things going through Lowe's? Hey, buddy.
Yeah, I've worn one of the Lowe's days ago actually. It was. I mean, it's there's one of the analogies or metaphors going around like if you don't wear pants and you pee your pants, then you get it on everybody. But if you wear pants, then you're less likely to get it on everybody else. But you have it already. It doesn't matter. So to me, it's just a responsibility thing. I don't want to be the cause. Because the way this asymptomatic stuff works, and new numbers are coming out every day. I don't want to be the one transmitted to somebody if I have it. And I've been trying to be pretty good about quarantining myself, but I'm still out picking stuff up on the liquor store when I have to. Getting the basic bare necessities there. So I'm just curious where you guys stand on this stuff.
I'm in agreement with you, producer Brian, but at the same time, I also know that the virus size is way smaller than the knit size of the fibers that are used even for those N95 masks. And I saw a meme recently talking about Putting on a mask to keep the virus out is just like putting up a chain link fence to keep mosquitoes out. But something's better than nothing. So, and like you were saying, for the benefit of other people, if you sneeze, if you have it and you sneeze or cough or something, it's going to help keep water droplets and stuff from spreading out and going all over the place. Um, there, I don't know if y'all seen. There's actually I've seen some articles about people wearing those masks with the exhale valves in them, which those masks are basically designed for construction work, people working on houses and cars and stuff, to where you're trying to keep from inhaling particles like dust
Yeah.
and what have you. But you need to be able, but you can breathe out.
Which
You
is
just don't want to breathe
opposite.
the stuff in.
Yeah.
Well, those masks are not doing anything to help anybody out because you're coughing and it's shooting out that valve, and it may be helping you from sucking in particles, but it's not doing anything good for other
Not
people
the
around
point
you.
of the mask. Yeah.
Those are your thoughts. Wearing a mask.
Dumbass. No, I think it should be left with choice in the individual because we since you got to edit the podcast anyway. Melissa Milano, resident dumbass of California, shows up mass shaming people on the Twitters the other day, posting a family pic of her and her and her family getting ready to go ride around California, and I don't know what they're going to do.
In an SUV, by the way.
In an SUV, and she has a crocheted mask on. Crochet. Like granny knitting the toilet paper cover
holes.
thing. I mean,
Bit of yarn.
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, literally, you could take your pinky and place it through the crocheted hole. But the people that are wearing masks, I wonder actually the benefit of some of these masks. I mean, I've seen everything from people taking old flannel shirts to the surgical medical masks, which aren't really rated for the micron level, to so just all varieties. You got the varieties from the people who have full hazmat suits, like level 5 hazmat, like um,
E.T.
quarantine movies or something, to people that are basically just taking their dirty underwear off and just wrapped around their head. I mean, you just have such a variation. So, but I think, in my personal opinion, I think now it's becoming almost this new social meme of compliance, and I think that you're starting to see the shaming. There's a couple of videos out there where grocery shoppers were actually shouting out a person who was not wearing a mask out of the store.
Yeah.
So I wonder if this is the new thing of 2020 where this compliance thing, you got neighbor snitching on neighbor for not complying with, whatever their state law is. I mean, hell, you can't even plant seeds in Michigan right now. You can't even cut your yard because of the laws. I wonder if this is the new thing where we're going to rat out our friends and family because they're not wearing a mask, or if they're not like I said, not being in full compliance with the law. I just think it's a compliance thing. I think it's just a social compliance thing.
It's funny you mentioned that. I saw an article this week that drew a line between masks now and seat belts in the early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
How that was a really hot thing that everyone, like, now for us it's like, well, yeah, of course you're gonna wear a seatbelt, but then it was this breach of right or breach of freedom almost to force you to protect yourself in a car.
Yeah.
Is the way it was taken by a lot of people. And I was an interesting kind of analog to, it makes you wonder what is 10 years from now, what's that normal look like? Hopefully it's not masks.
We have reshaped how we interact. We have reshaped our just basically how we do things, from simple fact of how we do church to how we buy cars, how we interact with friends. We have reshaped everything that we do from a daily life. I mean, how we buy food. you know, we're obviously, if you're listening to this, we're in North Carolina, and Roy Cooper, who's our governor, who I would equate to a Popeye's chicken restaurant, just a hot pile of garbage, loves to say he loves to chase science and data. Science and data. That's his catchphrase. We're not going to get political. We're going to follow the science and data. Well, if that was the logic that we did, then we would do that with everything. Science and data. What is the number one cause of car accidents and car deaths?
Science and data.
Cars.
Oh, right.
Let's ban the cars.
Yeah.
What's the number one cause of diabetes? The sugars.
Data.
Let's ban the sugars. I mean, you know, if we want to
Right.
follow the logic that like Roy Cooper and some of these other Whitmer from Michigan, you know, if we're going to use the same logic, let's apply it across the board. Let's just ban everything. I don't get it anymore. We have dove into this illogical fallacy of just believing this spoon-fed BS that these supposed higher ups have given us. And by the way, our governor,
and this is where you started to lose. Well, not he started to lose me, but this is where I was like, buddy. Now he's putting it in high gear. Excuse me. He said, a face covering signifies strength and compassion for others. Wearing one shows that you actually care about other people's health. That is where it really frustrated me. I was like, I don't think that that's accurate at all.
Actually, if you care about people's health and you're that concerned, just stay home. Don't go interact. I mean,
absolutely.
Honestly, if you want to, I mean, if you're that concerned that you may have possibly gotten the people, side note, the people that drive in their cars with a mask on,
I don't get it.
Jesus, man. I mean, I mean,
there's a line there, but you know, I've seen what's been interesting to me is I'll go to some areas and you see like 50-60% wearing it. Then I'll go into a more prevalent area maybe, and nobody at all.
But I think it should be their. I think it should be their choice because
sure, it's a choice. I'm not.
You have two consenting adults that came from two opposite places, and they're making a conscious decision to gather in this one place with the supposed risk. I mean, the CDC just revised their numbers. That their expectation right now is that the death rate from the COVID is going to be 0.26. Now, remember, this is in the upper 3 to 4%. 3 months ago. Now we're at 0.26.
Yeah.
I mean, the science and data, man,
not adding up.
It'd be nice if it was like your daughter's, you know, Common Core math where 2 + 2 = 8. Well, in CDC math, you know, you shoot out a number at 36% and you're hoping that maybe you come back at 0.14. It's just, it don't make sense. But
yeah.
Meanwhile,
well, even this article that producer Brian, you linked to, I don't know if you read it or not, which
a week ago.
Okay. He was saying that,
but the science and data change every week. So
the science doesn't prove that wearing the masks actually does anything. And they were also saying, well, if we're gonna force, if the data suggests that we have to wear masks, does the data also support the 6-foot rule? Like, why not 8 feet? Why not 20 feet?
Actually,
why is 6 feet the number?
Actually, they found in one of some tests I read from, I think it was John Hopkins or whatever, the 6 feet rule is not even applicable because they're saying the average person's cough is like 9 to 10 feet.
Yeah.
And especially if the corona is lasting in the air for more than 3 hours or whatever it was at one point, it's probably different now, but at one point it was like corona can live in the air for 3 hours. Well, it doesn't matter if you're 600 miles away from the person. If it lasts 3 hours and you have a traveling distance of 80 miles per hour, I mean, technically if you're 240 miles away from you, you do have a slight potential of catching the corona.
Absolutely.
I mean,
We're
there's
so
a
screwed. That's
possibility.
all it is. We're just screwed.
Well, and they were all like, why 20 seconds to wash your hands?
All
why
I know
not
is if
19? Why
I
not
ever had
45?
if I ever have to go to surgery again, God forbid, and
Mhm.
my doctor shows up with a bandana around his face because that's now the equivalent of a surgical mask to keep germs away from me.
Mhm.
I think I'm gonna get up and just leave. I don't think that's
Yeah.
correct.
Well, this article is just saying that there's not any significant trials and tests that prove that a mask actually works.
Yeah.
There's not any trials or tests to prove that it does work.
Maybe our stock investment tip should be any company that makes breath mints.
Oh,
If we had to continue wearing these masks, I mean, you get that hot.
My wife said that today. She went out. She was at work, so she was at school with a mask on, and she went and got sushi for lunch.
Oh, hey, buddy.
And she's like, that was rough the rest of the afternoon.
Yeah. My wife said she did that and didn't brush her teeth before she took the kids to school.
Oof.
So, that didn't work out well.
That's the Popeyes hot garbage.
There it is. All right, let's go into Trump Twitter. Can you play our Trump update?
Absolutely.
I'm very proud of myself.
You can't always get what you want.
Incredible. Really amazing. Don't be stupid.
But if you try something, you might find.
Deal or no
You
deal?
get what you need.
I don't wear a toupee. It's my hair.
Trump accuses Twitter of election interference after it adds fact-check warning to his tweets. Earlier this week, Trump tweeted that if you did mail-in ballots, that it would be fraudulent, and predicted that mailboxes will be robbed. Then quickly after that, Twitter put up a message saying that this may or may not be accurate, and said that the fact checking notates that this may not be correct. And then Trump then went on a tirade to Twitter saying, "You're not going to censor me, Twitter," and just kind of went nuts on Twitter. He said, "Twitter is completely stifling free speech, and I, as president, will not allow it to happen." So Twitter is fact checking Trump's tweets, which they haven't been recently. They haven't been doing it until recently. Thoughts on one, Trump's tweet, and then two, on the Twitter censorship. Producer Brian, thoughts?
Yeah. So one of the reasons, the big question, the reason I put this in the document was, is this? I mean, we want these social media companies to fact check our politicians when they're making claims about stuff. To me, it's not even a he should see. They're not preventing his freedom of speech. They're saying what you're saying may not be true, and you're in a position of your job's to give information at some point. So if it's not true, you're misleading the public. That's a service, I suppose. I know Facebook said a while back that it was going to treat political ads. It was going to during the whole fake news debacle, they were either going to fact check politicians or say they're excluded from fact checking because we kind of know nothing they say is true at the time or something like that. So it's a big question, to me, about social media, and if their algorithm is reading these statements and say, it's not a person that went, "Oh, that can't be right," push a button.
No, I thought it was. I thought there was a guy that fact checked it and said that that's.
It's probably got flagged, and then someone looked at it and said, "Oh, yes, let's do some research." Or the research doesn't back that up. The science and data.
The science and data. There you go.
There it is. You can't tell me. You cannot convince me that if there's mail-in ballots, that there's not going to be a crap ton of fraud. You can't do it.
I 100% agree with you. I think we've had that in the past.
Yeah, it's been documented. You got people that go by and pick up batch hatchers. They pick up their ballots and then they take in that to the precinct and said, "Here's 1 million ballots. I've just picked them up." You can't tell me that that's not going to be true.
No, we have the most asinine thing when it comes to voting system. I honestly, is there better ways to do it? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You got it's considered racist to ask for people for voter ID law, even though to get EBT or enroll your kid in school or to get whatever they ask for a license. So we got that. Mail-in votes. I mean, if you don't think they can be tampered with, then there's so much fraud that can be perpetrated there, and for either party. I mean,
right? Yeah.
What if there's a rogue wing of the Libertarian Party, and all of a sudden we end up with Joe Jurgensen? I'm okay with that. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that you'd all of a sudden have something like that out of a population of voters of what 60 million voters or whatever it is. There's so much problematic issues with mail-in voting that, maybe have in-person voting, but maybe extend it by 3 days. Do like multiple day voting versus mail-in voting. You know what I'm saying? Just to spread it out.
Ryan, what are your thoughts?
Do you remember what was it, a couple years ago, the whole Mark Harris debacle where was it Pender County, or I can't remember which county it was? This was an election for the U.S. House of Representatives for, I think it was District 9 here in North Carolina, which includes Mecklenburg County, and where there was voter fraud that was actually, I guess they found out it was true. They had some guy that was investigated who was going around collecting these absentee ballots and turning them in. So, like what was said, this could happen for either party, not just one or the other. It can happen for both. Let's face it, both parties have pluses and minuses. I'm trying to be politically correct here.
Anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it. Mail-in voting, the chances of there being something fraudulent occurring, I think, is a lot higher than going in person and voting, simply because those ballots don't go directly from your hand into the ballot box. They're going through
the
mail carrier, several people through the mail office. There's too
many variables.
Too much chance there for something to get, something malicious to be done. So
absolutely.
And like I said, this is for both parties, not just for one.
You want to talk about potential foreign influence into an election? Just imagine, some of these countries like Korea, or not Korea, but North Korea, Russia, China. These guys have master forgers that can. I mean, hell, they have duplicated some of our economy. I don't know if you remember, right before the corona hit, we actually confiscated shipping containers of fraudulent counterfeit cash coming from North Korea. So imagine these guys all of a sudden somehow have some type of liaison in their government to get a copy of our ballots and actually submit an enormous amount of ballots swaying the election to the political party they think they can have a favor with.
Yeah,
it could happen.
Absolutely. And so for Twitter to say this is not right, just step back half a step and say, well, mail-in fraud could absolutely happen.
Well, but also I think since I don't know if you've seen this, but actually Trump has just issued a executive order concerning social media.
Oh, I did not.
I'm trying to see if I can find it real quick. But
well, and that goes back to, while you're looking that up, is Twitter can say this is potentially fraudulent. They could do whatever they want. They're, if you don't want to be part of the fact checking, then just get off Twitter for one. But at the end of the day, like, should they be saying, and who's in charge of that? You were saying algorithms, but who's the one that's saying yeah, let's go ahead and slap that not true statement on that tweet.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at the Twitter. There's a big thread on this on that specific issue. Well, I can link to it with different news agencies and folks chiming in on that.
I just want the actual executive order so we can read through it versus the news spin on it. That's why I can't find it.
No, I'm looking at the other Twitter thing. And the other half of that article is about
the Joe Scarborough.
That whole situation.
Yeah, now I will say I think Trump went a little bit too far on that one.
There was 2 tweets that got flagged, and the second one,
sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
see, it looks like the executive order is targeting social media platforms as actual media. So we'll see how this fleshes out in the next coming
they get
days.
treated like the press, essentially.
Yeah, because they for the longest time they've been just basically news is basically a content aggregator. They take information, they publicize, whatever their editors determine needs to go into the news. Social media platforms have been more open, but they also have been restricting because, you've had the shadow banning from Twitter. You've had Twitter kick people off, this and that. Even though Twitter, Facebook, these places have actually been a go-to for people to get their news. I mean, if you, like me, if I want to find out something happened locally, like last night with the events on the ground in Missouri and Minnesota, I was on Twitter looking up what was happening just because you get the quickest on the ground information.
Periscope. Yeah.
Is Periscope still around?
Yep.
It
is. Okay.
Owned by Twitter, right?
Yeah, it's owned by
Twitter. Yeah, it's owned by Twitter. Yeah. So should some of these companies be checked as far as under the freedom of press or the press? I think so, because with them, I mean, how many? I have probably like 2,000 friends on my Facebook, and I maybe see the same 12 people every day. So obviously they're throttling something back.
That's an algorithm thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't, so they need to change that up. They need to, unharness. I'm not saying that the government needs to come in and tell them what to say or do or spread, but I'm saying that, I can't tell you how many damn creepy Joe Biden ads I've seen in the last 2 weeks when I'm strolling through the Facebooks,
Yeah. Our crack research department, Rodney, said that they were given full protection from lawsuits because of third-party content. So,
now what was the Joe Scarborough one? I haven't seen that one.
Basically, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is basically Trump wanted the investigation for an intern that was an intern for Joe Scarborough 20 years ago, I think it was, and she died evidently I guess had a seizure or whatever, hit her head on the corner of a table, and tragically passed away in the office. And Trump wanted a investigation of Joe Scarborough, basically implying that he killed her. And people wanted that removed from Twitter. Twitter stepped up and said, we're not going to remove it. Well, we can add, the little tag on it, but we're not going to remove it.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean,
he said Google 230. I don't know what that means.
Well, it's just this is a separate side wing. It's interesting to see a president fire back, because this is something we've
sure.
This
you
is
don't
something
see that often.
I haven't seen it where a president play. We see most presidents play defense. Where they're always news breaks and then they try to cover their tracks. I mean, Ronald Reagan, news breaks, Iran-Contra affair. It's always constant defense. The Libyan, the plane gets shot down by Libya, defense. Always defense with these guys. Monica Lewinsky, 9/11. It's always defense. How did we make mistakes? And all of a sudden now you see a president going the offense. It's just kind of interesting to see the dichotomy here in what we're dealing with, and we're not used to that. We're not used to seeing a president. For example, I mean Scarborough and his fiance or maybe wife now, Brzezinski, how they at first they were kind of pro-Trump, during 2016, and then have shifted to never Trumpers now.
Mhm.
And of course, the Brzezinski had her dad, Brzezinski, was an interesting fellow too, who passed away a couple of years ago, I think. It's interesting to see a president go after that. I mean, these guys, Scarborough's been very adamant about investigating every sex assault claim and everything that comes down the pike that doesn't stick to Trump for some reason. And all of a sudden now the tables have turned. It's interesting to see, how it's turned, how it's had a turnabout. So,
yeah. I don't know. If you're going to say that social media is media, then you'll have to look at, well, is there an editor who's going to tell if it's print worthy or not? And so I think that there's a lot of policing that could happen that I think could impact in a negative way. So
I agree.
Just a thought.
I just wish, social media, like Facebook back in the day, in the wild, wild west of Facebook. I mean,
MySpace.
You could pretty much post anything, and it was free for all. But so much stuff gets flagged now. It's ridiculous, and it's all in the mindset of protecting people that may be affected by it.
Right.
And granted, Facebook has a thing called unfollow.
Right.
Which you told me about a couple weeks ago. So, but if you've seen that your mindset is being changed by certain people that you are friends with, just unfollow them. It makes life a lot easier. I mean, you're not going to change. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, I saw a case of a guy that posted a completely racist comment, and when I say completely, it was completely racist, and he just blocked him and unfollowed him, and because he didn't like his content. That's fine. That's your choice. That's your freedom. You do what you want, and you block or follow who you want, or you allow people to comment who you want.
I've gotten into the habit, and I love everyone. I mean, I have no issues. I shouldn't say I have no issues, but I love people, and I know people are in a reactionary mode on everything now. With especially what's happening in Minnesota and what happened in Brunswick, Georgia. It's not that I'm trying to hide my head in the sand, but you got to take each incident at its core.
Right. Exactly.
And do that. But also I look at the same people and I go, hold on. Is there any hypocrisy that's sitting here? Have you spoken up for such and such case that just happened? Or did you speak up for, the such and such crime that's happened? If you're going to do this, then you're going to be pretty much busy 24/7 on social media, speaking up against everything.
Yeah.
But they don't, they pick and choose, which kind of seems that they're trying to form this narrative. And I'll be honest with you, I don't want to be a part of that. So
the
unfollow button has become probably my best friend on social media.
What's the point of blabbing all over your own page when if you have a strong feeling, go somewhere else and type your feelings in the whether it's a Congress or a police website in this case or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that are watching your stuff, it's just a captive audience. What's the point? I mean,
how about you do something?
Yeah.
Like actually get out there and do something. Like, I was talking to a friend today, the biggest disappointment I've had personally, and this is kind of me being transparent here on the show, is my biggest disappointment during this whole event has been the church community. We talk about the American church, I've heard numerous posts, I've read numerous posts. I've heard numerous speeches. I've never heard numerous people rail about, the American church and how broken it is and this and that. But during the coronavirus, I've been very disappointed with the American church. I've not seen churches open the doors. I've not seen churches filling
Well, they
food
can't
pantries.
legally, so there's that.
I've not seen, well, true, but I've not seen churches out there feeding the poor. I've not seen churches out there filling food pantries. I've not seen churches out there making sure the community's needs are met.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen churches speak upon certain key issues where it kind of suits a political narrative, and that's kind of becoming a growing distaste in my mouth in a lot of ways. That's not just churches. I mean, I'm not trying to pigeonhole churches because that, but I see a tremendous hypocrisy across the board for a lot of people, where people may not speak up for. I mean, hell, we just had numbers come out. We've lost 41 million jobs in 10 weeks. That's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of jobs. That's a lot of livelihoods that have been affected. There's a doctor from Santa Barbara that just spoke up and says, we've had a 75% increase in suicides and over 150% increase in suicide attempts in the last 10 weeks.
Wow.
But no one's speaking up on that. All we can focus on is the shutdown, lockdown, and other issues. That's all we can focus on. We can't focus on that. But there's just such a tremendous hypocrisy right now. And to me, you know how we joke about the Facebook families, where you have the perfect pictures out there, where you have the family happy, but really at home they're not. And we have the people out there that just must speak up. They must post that meme on this new social justice thing. But really, are they really speaking up, for the downtrodden? I mean, are we really speaking up for, you want to talk about white privilege? There's no Planned Parenthood clinic in my neighborhood, but there's a Planned Parenthood clinic in an underprivileged neighborhood that's minority. Are we speaking up for that? If white privilege exists, that exists right now. I don't have this clinic in my neighborhood. I don't have a clinic down the neighborhood, down the street. But I guarantee you, an underprivileged neighborhood that's chock full of minorities has a clinic like that.
Yeah. And to be clear, like not all churches are not doing anything. There are churches that are stepped up.
But I'm saying that we like to group everybody. Sure. Like, we hear speeches, we hear editorial posts, blog posts about the American church.
Right.
Saying just like,
sure.
Just like we hear about American exceptionalism, we hear about American aggression, we hear about American greatness. We have, when the good times are good, we claim it. Well, we're in America. Right. We sent people to the moon. That's true. That's true. I hear you. But no, that's true. America as a country, we sent people to America, but I can't take claim to that because I had nothing to do with that. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I'm not saying all churches. I'm just saying that under this moniker of what we'd like to classify, it's just sometimes it's where we land.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all be good. My mama's watching now.
Hey, Mama Ray.
You should have tuned in about 10 minutes ago. You should have seen what Ryan said.
He said a wordy dirt, I'm telling.
Nice.
All right. Well, let's go to the next and last topic. There's a new COVID-19 home test you can give yourself. Evidently, the amount of testosterone that you are exposed to in the womb is kind of directly connected to the chances that you get COVID-19. And one of the ways that they determine how much testosterone you've been exposed to is by the digits on your hand. Now, what they are saying is if your ring finger is a different size than your ring or your pointer finger, that you have had more testosterone, and therefore you are more likely to get the coronavirus.
Crap.
So, Ryan, why don't you give what say you? Where are you at?
My ring finger is taller than my pointer finger.
Okay, so you had less testosterone.
Oh,
That doesn't
thanks.
surprise me.
Right.
So there's that.
That's not. No, you said the other thing. You said the
Oh, wait.
ring finger
Yeah.
is longer
Yeah.
than you had.
Hold
The
on.
more testosterone.
You're contradicting
Yeah,
yourself.
that big
Good.
word is
The
the problem.
Here we go. So if the length of your index finger, known as 2D, is bigger than the length of your ring finger,
Oh.
then it indicates a higher exposure to testosterone. So this finger has to be higher than your pointer finger has to be higher than your ring finger.
Now, if I move them over, my pointer finger is higher than my ring finger.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I got scared there for a second. I thought I
Yeah.
was
So sorry about that.
so I'm immune apparently.
Mojo, where are you at?
I'm even.
Yeah, I'm even too.
Oh.
I guess
think
we're
the-
safe.
I think the
50-50.
science. I think the science and data here is kind of crazy. I don't know if I follow this.
Well, you know what? This
Oh.
article, if anything, proves that the man flu is real.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So
I thought the man flu was real.
it
It
is
is real, but this is just more science and data
This
to
is
prove
proof.
that men are affected harder by these kinds of diseases.
That's funny.
But what about Caitlyn Jenner?
Oh, that's a good question.
Well, that testosterone, did she get it taken out? Did he, she, her, his, he, him,
I don't know.
she, her?
Too late. She's already been affected. She had
Somebody needs to ask.
testosterone most of her
You got to
life.
test.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show. Thanks again for tuning in. Mojo, send us out.
Hey, appreciate you guys tuning in once again. If you can, please go to our Facebook page at Southern Fried Philosophy. You can also check us out on our Southern Fried Philosophy webpage at southernfriedphilosophy.com. Also, wherever you download your podcast at, just go there. Simply search Southern Fried Philosophy. Hit the subscribe button first. Next, please leave us a review. You can say I'm a total douche or whatever. That's
that.
fine. We still appreciate that. Whatever you'd like to do, give us a 1 star. I don't even care. That just helps us move up in the old algorithm. Share your favorite episodes. Tell your friends about us. Check out our sponsors. We have some good people. We don't do just corporations and companies. We actually do nonprofits, and we appreciate each and every one of those. And hopefully we'll have a few more of those coming on board here soon. Also, if you're not an organ donor, shout out to my donor mother, Lisa. I love you. Just if you haven't signed up as an organ donor, when the DMV's opening back up full throttle, just head down to the DMV. Make sure you check that box. Also check your voter registration. There's still time to vote. And you can also go to your Apple phone, or I'm sure maybe Android has some type of device. You can actually register to become an organ donor. Save someone's life.
Absolutely. Next week, again, we have Dewan Curse. He will be sharing his story. So make sure you tune in for that. And as always, keep looking up. Bye, guys. Thank you for tuning in.